Such a clear example of this is what it's like when a secure attachment person dates another secure attachment person.
Yeah. When you're the lead of a Bachelor season, you kind of have to be selfish, right? You have to really focus on yourself and what you want and what you need, and that's clearly something that Joey is not great at.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're in Bachelorette Season 20, Episode 9 and 10, the finale, and we're back again this week and every week to recap Charity season. For those of you who don't know us, we're true dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially The Bachelorette. So if you're into this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation.
So we have our season finale of Charity's season. It was so good. This was like a very riveting episode. I was loudly screaming throughout many parts of it.
I was enraptured. I was like, what is happening next? Jesse did a good job of interweaving some exciting
teasers.
Points in the episode.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
The most dramatic finale of all time.
Jesse, I think, is stepping into his own as the host. I feel like now he's starting to show more of his own personality as opposed to trying to maybe replicate Chris Harrison. So I do feel like we're getting a lot more Jesse, showiness, which I don't hate. I mean, I don't love the man, but
I don't love him.
It was entertaining.
He's trying his hardest.
Anyways, we finally know who Charity ends up with. It is Dotun. Charity and Dotun are so cute. We have so much to say about these two, but before we get to them, let's go through. So much has happened in this episode. Let's start off with Aaron B, which it feels like is a distant memory at this point, but we did start off the season finale with Aaron appearing again to Charity, telling her that he still has feelings for her and that he wants to stay and continue to see where the relationship goes. And Charity, much to I think a lot of people's surprise, decides to keep him around. She tells him, let's have dinner. They start to make out on the beach, and then they do have a private date that feels like, for all intents and purposes, he is re-entering into the process. So it was kind of surprising to see, honestly, especially because last week she just told both Dotun and Joey that she is in love with them. And so for her to bring another guy in after already being so secure with two different guys did make me feel a little bit, I wouldn't say that I'm questioning her, but I was just surprised by it. It felt, when she kissed him, I was a little bit taken aback. It felt like something maybe to discuss with the other two men before she just already goes in and makes her relationship with this new guy physical. So I was just a little bit surprised, honestly, with how much she leaned into that relationship, because I don't know. I think my understanding of the relationship dynamic of the characters on this show is that you come on and you understand that Charity is going to be dating multiple men, but it's who she's dating. And so once people go home, you think, okay, now she's only dating me and these two guys. But then to bring another guy in without telling them, I feel kind of broke the code a little bit, if that makes sense. It was bringing someone in without their knowledge. So I don't know. It felt a little, and then surprising them with it at the rose ceremony. Surprise, Aaron is back. It just felt a little bit, I don't know. I didn't love this. I don't necessarily fault Charity for wanting to explore what happened with Aaron, explore maybe if there's something still there with Aaron, but I just kind of felt like it felt a little surprising for her to do that without first kind of letting Joey and Dotun know that this was going to happen. So I don't know. I didn't love this scene, to be honest. It felt squeegee to me.
Yeah. What I didn't love about that scene, or Aaron just re-entering the fray, was, did he honestly feel like his connection of Charity was strong enough for him to come back into the space where she's already had these overnights with, her top two? She has made these deep, deep connections. For him to come back in, I thought it was a little bit presumptuous, and I thought it was a little bit exploitative of her vulnerabilities. I mean, he didn't know that Xavier was gone because of infidelity, but Charity was in a really fragile state. And she was, she was feeling really vulnerable. She was thinking about that heartbreak, thinking about who could be the person that she could choose as her husband, and then her ex comes back and he tries to reinsert himself. It just, to me, it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is a situation that is not healthy. It's not panning out the way that I feel like would be best for anyone in this situation. It's best that he goes home. And I'm glad that he did go home. But when the guys saw him and they had those faces, I would be really annoyed in that situation too. It's like, she sent you home. You're really coming back, and Charity bringing him back too. Like, I just think she wasn't in the right headspace, and she wasn't making decisions that she would have typically made.
Yeah, I agree. I think both of them, both Aaron and Charity, I was kind of like, I disappointed with both of them a little bit. Like, I think both of them didn't handle this situation very well. It's funny that Aaron comes back after he made that huge stink about Brayden coming back to talk to Charity. Like, and Aaron had been all like, oh, she already sent you home, man. Like, just leave. Like, Aaron was saying all that kind of stuff to Brayden, and Brayden showed back up way back a couple weeks ago. And here's Aaron showing up after, you know, he got dumped. And that's the other thing. There's always a fine line with when somebody ends a relationship with you coming back to re-explore things or, you know, reopen that door. There's a really fine line of when it's appropriate and when it becomes pushy, like pushing your desires onto a person who has already made it clear that they don't want to be in a relationship with you. So it's not that I think, clearly Charity was open to it. So it's not that I think Aaron went too far by coming back, but it's treading a tricky line. I do think that, like, when someone breaks up with you, you gotta kind of let them go. Maybe it's like one more time, just if you really feel like maybe there's still a chance that there's still something there to work through. Maybe you do it once and you re-explore that. I think any more than that can take it over the line. So I guess I don't think Aaron fully crossed the line here, but he was really towing that line, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And it did, he continues to be extremely unattractive to me. I saw him on the beach. I'm not excited to see him on the beach. It's just, I just don't really love his particular personality personally. But do I feel like he could find love on the beach? Yes. Do I think that he was trying to find something of Charity? Yes. Do I think it was unfair for him to come back at the point that he did? Yeah. It just felt a little bit... I agree with you. If someone breaks up with you, just let them go. And I noticed in the episode he was talking a lot about what he had to offer and about how excited he was about their connection. But I wish that he was like, have you been thinking of me? And just really giving her that language for her to step forward and say, actually, I have been thinking about you and I want to bring you back. And that didn't happen so much. So that conversation to me, I'm just like happy that he went home.
I completely agree. And I agree with you that I think that he seems overall like a wonderful guy. Like, I think he's going to be a great partner to somebody. I'm not like that enthused about him. I have such an ick with him. Like, I just don't enjoy seeing. Yeah, I just don't enjoy seeing him on my screen. I'm not excited to see him on Bachelor in Paradise. But, he was real sweet with Charity, even when she broke up with him again for the second time. He was real sweet with her and very just supportive of her decision, being like, I'm always in your corner, like very much like I will always be there for you or I'll always be supporting you. It was all very endearing. I like the guy. I think he's a great guy. I just, this whole interaction I could have done without it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a nice beginning of the episode, I suppose, but by the time that she sent him home, I had already forgotten he was on my screen. I was like, time for the real meat of the episode, which is for them to meet her family, for her to figure out who's going to be her husband, who's going to be the Bachelor.
Completely
It felt
agree.
like a nothing burger.
Okay, well, we're going to move on and talk about the actual meat of this episode, but let us know what you all thought about this whole Charity-Aaron interaction. What did you think about him returning to re-explore things with Charity, and what did you think about Charity's decision to kind of keep him around, have a date with him, and then eventually send him home? Leave your thoughts down below. With that, we're gonna get to Joey later because Joey is our new Bachelor, which is so exciting. So we have a lot to say about him, but let's start out with our happy ending here because we got it. Charity goes, she introduces both men to her family, she goes on a last date with each of them, and she makes her decision, and it's Dotun. And wow, this was such a beautiful proposal. It was such a beautiful, happy ending to this story. I think basically all of us thought it was going to be Dotun for a while now. It was like the last 5 weeks. I think most of us were like, it has to be Dotun. And of course it was. Their story was just that strong. Their connection just, it seeped through the screen. Everyone felt it. So this was not surprising at all, but it was still so beautiful to see it come to fruition.
Oh my God, I freaking loved it. It was so beautiful to see how certain she felt about Dotun and how much she wanted him so badly. What I found so interesting in the episode was when she had introduced Joey to her parents. They all loved him. And then she introduced Dotun to her parents, and you could just tell that a lot of her turmoil came from them not being 1,000% certain about Dotun too. She was like, You're not backing this. You feel a little nervous for Joey. I'm feeling confused. Are you sure? And she just kept wanting to corner her mom to give her her insight and her feedback. And her mom was like, I'm having nothing to do with this decision. They're both fine to me. You choose who you want. You know who you want. That's your future husband. I found that to be so fascinating because it really did go to Charity to overcome her insecurities, to overcome her indecision, for her to say, I'm making this for me without any input from anybody else, because they loved him, but they also liked Joey. So it was very negligible, the differences between those two people. It came down to who Charity wanted to be with more.
Right, absolutely. I actually loved that scene between Charity and her mom. It was like a bit of obviously they were in a bit of a conflict in this scene, right? They were a little bit at odds about the right way to approach this situation. Charity wants advice. Charity's mom was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to tell you which guy you should marry. You need to decide that for yourself. To me, this was a very beautiful display of parenting. It was a beautiful display of a mother seeing that this is and you could tell the mom knew this. She said this to the camera a few times, that Charity struggles with indecision. This is something that Charity, has a lot of room to grow in this area. And that was one, a sign that the mom knows Charity very well and knows Charity's personal kind of struggles very well. But two, she didn't enable Charity to fall back into that pattern, or to maybe she has some pattern with her mom where she just like wants other people to kind of save her from her indecision. And because of course indecision, it's so painful to be in that. I relate to this. I'm the most indecisive person. It takes me a long time to make decisions about anything. And so I really related to Charity's struggle. And the mom could have coddled Charity and just given Charity what she wanted, which was, here, I'll pick for you so you don't have to deal with this discomfort of sitting with that indecision. She could have just given that to Charity, but instead she was like, no, I'm going to push you because I know you can do this. I want to challenge you to step in, be independent. You can't tether yourself or have other people pull you out of these struggles. You need to be able to figure it out yourself, especially for something like this, your husband, like such a huge decision. So I actually thought that the mom, I was very impressed, honestly, by the mom. It's a tough love because she's not giving Charity maybe that in the moment comfort that Charity wanted, but she was looking at the big picture, which is Charity will look back on this and really know that she picked Dotun despite the fact that her family didn't push her in that direction and in fact kind of pushed her towards Joey. And Charity will look back and know, I picked this man because I wanted him. And that's something that is so much more valuable than that in the moment, just in this hour comfort that her mom could have given her. So I appreciated the mom's behavior, her approach to that situation.
Oh, 1,000%. The reassurance or the lack of reassurance that her mom gave her really forced Charity to be in a place of discomfort, of knowing, okay, there are these two guys and both of these guys are pretty great. I can have a great future with both of them, but who do I have a deeper connection with?
Right.
There is heartbreak no matter which direction she chooses, and it was up to her to decide the life that she wanted for herself. And it's not a life that her parents can have input in, because at that point she is an adult, she can make her own decisions. And it's also really important for someone like Charity, who has been through betrayal trauma of just, am I choosing the right person? Her mom also commented on the fact that Dotun has this familiar energy to her last exes.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was
fascinating.
I was wondering what you thought about that, Julie, because that was something that actually Charity said about Xavier. Right? That Xavier reminded her of her ex who cheated on her. So when the mom said that about Dotun, I was like, oh God, I'm scared. What does this mean? Why is this information here?
That's what I was thinking too. And I was wondering, what is it about? It was such a throwaway comment that her mom said because they didn't get to explore it in any meaningful direction. But it was fascinating to hear her say that, and then for her to say, no, my daughter's making the decision for herself and she's doing what's best for herself. It's important for Charity to kind of build into being her own safe person and knowing that she can choose the next partner that she's going to have, and she can feel confident making that decision no matter what could happen. Like whether she stays a Dotun, whether she gets married to Dotun, that's a decision that she needs to make for herself, and she will feel much better knowing that that came independently versus someone influencing her. Because what can happen down the line, you can blame someone. Mom, you told me to pick Dotun. I wanted to pick Joey. Or like, you know, like there's all of this back and forth that can happen. She can kind of attack external forces. And it's not saying she could do that, but that is what happens when you allow someone to play such a big part in your decision-making process. The blame gets diluted to all of the different people that have been collaborating with you on that decision versus you just saying it with your full chest. I take him no matter what happens, despite any challenges, despite anything that we might go through. I'm choosing him above the other person. This is the best decision for me at this time. It's important. It's important for her to have done that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say that Charity can't seek out advice, because I do think it is good to seek out advice from your peers, your friends, trusted professionals, like whoever in your life you feel like you can really trust their perspective. I do think that it is important to get other people's points of view, but in this case where she's basically, it's not necessarily that she was looking for other people's, you know, advice on her situation. She wanted someone else to make a decision for her because she couldn't make it herself. And that's different.
Exactly.
Because that is her trying to escape her own, this challenge of hers, this thing that she needs to work through for herself, which is to be able to feel confident in her own decisions and to feel confident about her ability to choose her own partner. That's something that she needs for herself, and no one else can make you confident in yourself. You have to source that from within. And yeah, I mean, I loved that the mom supported Charity in finding that in herself, as opposed to trying to just give her the answer so she felt better in that moment. It was a beautiful showing of parenting.
It totally was, and they both seem so growth-oriented that they would want to make sure that Charity is working on herself actively outside of her infidelity, which is caused by a really huge betrayal that she went through for ex. It's important for her to now feel like I can choose the best partner for myself based on all the information I have and based on all the information I can uncover. Yeah. So it was very fascinating to see Charity get a little bit snippy with her mom too.
Yeah,
she was like, "I'm having." Right? Her mom was like, "I don't know what to tell you," and her mom and Charity was like, "Well, I'm talking to you right now. We're having the conversation. Here we are. Let's go. Tell me what you think." And then she took her mom outside because she thought the cameras were impacting her mom's like point of view, and her mom was like, "No, I'm not gonna tell you which way to do it. I'm staying strong in my conviction that this is what you need to do for yourself." I freaking loved that. I hadn't really seen that before on the show.
Right, from a parent. I mean, it's so different from it's funny, Barbara was in the audience, and she's an example of a mom who had a completely opposite approach to the situation. She was very vocal about who she thought her son, Pilot Peter, should have picked in the situation. Even after he made the decision, she was questioning his decision. And obviously that had such a huge impact on Peter and his relationship and the woman he did pick. So, it was actually hilarious to me to see Barbara in the audience because she's such a polar opposite example from Charity's mom. But anyways, let's get back to talking about Charity and Dotun because there's so much to love about these two, and I think ultimately her mom was right. Charity did know the right answer, and Dotun, I'm sure Charity would have been very happy if she ended up picking Joey, but with Dotun. There's so much to love about these two and their relationship.
It was just so evident that she had really chosen Dotun a long time ago, maybe a few weeks prior, and each week was reconfirming and making that choice easier for her. Despite her falling in love with Joey at the same time, it just always felt like to me Dotun matched Charity in some really fundamental ways. The corniness, like the last gift that he gave her, the baby pictures, it just feels it's the exact level of cheesiness that I think Charity really appreciates. I really believe that she wants a partner that makes her feel like how Dotun feels, that it's a lot of green flags, and I know they're gonna have their fair share of troubles in the future, but right now they're really supportive, they're really caring, and they're just so attuned to each other, and it's so good. And what I also love about the relationship is, even though they haven't really had any conflict, maybe that's okay at the beginning of a relationship when you're supposed to just be enjoying each other. And it doesn't have to be so heavy. You don't need to be unpacking all of this trauma together. You can just see how compatible you truly are on an energetic, fundamental value level. And that's what they had. Sometimes it's just easy to choose the easy, deeper, more profound choice for you. Like maybe that's what Charity is craving, and Dotun is giving her such a level of security, trust, and safety. You know, like she was saying, she was calling him her baby daddy, and he was not scared. He was like really nodding and saying, I'm so happy I stayed. I'm so happy I deepened this. I'm not scared for any of these things in the future. That's what someone like Charity wants. She wants someone to be all in. So I freaking love that.
Yeah, absolutely. She said this thing about Dotun at some point in the episode. She said with Dotun, it's ease. And I always say this is how relationships should be. Relationships should be easy. And that's not to say that it's supposed to be a fairy tale and that there's no problems and that you never have conflict. That's not what that means. Every relationship will deal with conflict and challenges, and, you know, that's always going to come up. So I will say that I don't love that the two of them keep framing their relationship like it's perfect. That's not, I wouldn't say that that's the way anyone should be describing their relationship, because all relationships are going to have issues, and that bubble is definitely going to burst eventually. However, the feeling that you have in your relationship should largely be that it feels easy. It should be that your day-to-day, your week-to-week, it's not filled with confusion and strife and like something's about to break if you make the wrong move, or like there's this roller coaster of emotions. So often people chase those intense feelings. They chase intensity in their relationships because they think intense feelings and intensity correlates to stronger love. But in reality, healthy love, it's usually kind of boring. It's stable. It's grounding. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's easy. And I love that these two really embody that. They really embody what a healthy relationship can look like, which is it just feels good to be in. And there isn't this feeling of like a push and a pull and a high and a low. It just feels like ease. They will have their challenges, and I'm, maybe they've had them by the time after the final rose and we never get to see them. That's okay. That's for them to explore together. We don't have to see all of it. But I do love being able to see a relationship that just, it's ease. It's not complicated. It's just something that feels good for them.
It's so good too, because it's such a clear example of this is what it's like when a secure attachment person dates another secure attachment person.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not the roller coasters of the highs and lows. Is he going to call me back? Does she like me? Is she fighting with me? It feels steady for a good reason. They can build a life together in that consistency and the respect they can give each other when times do get tough, and the illusion kind of shatters, because it always kind of does when we're presenting these like really shiny, positive versions of ourselves when we first date someone, and then the cracks start to follow. That's inevitable. But the admiration, respect, and the mutual way they enter into their conversations, it says so much. It's really going to get them far. And I don't know if I would love for them to be together. I would love for them to get married and have kids. But even if they didn't, I know that this relationship would be so healing and so amazing for the both of them.
Yes, really well said. I agree. I think that they are just two people who are going to treat each other well, and they seem to intend to treat each other well. And, you know, who knows? It's hard to know how things are going to pan out. Like, you know, maybe they find that they have some difference or some disagreement or whatever that they aren't able to really resolve, whatever it might be. Like, the relationship could end. That doesn't mean that it's not a healthy relationship. And at least from what we're seeing right now, for all intents and purposes, it does seem like they've really found a healthy sort of love, and the kind of love that's like worth aspiring toward.
Totally. What I thought was really funny was when they were like, you're going to go to Greece for your honeymoon, and they were clapping, and then Dotun said, and you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars, and then the camera panned to Gabby.
I know.
Gabby and her new girlfriend in the audience, yeah. Right? And I was like, oh man, she broke up with Eric because she was on the show. So I know. That's so fascinating.
I'm glad you brought that up because I had the exact same thought. That was actually the only thing that kind of was like a weird, dark premonition moment of like, Dancing with the Stars is where leads go to have their relationships crash and burn. Like, I feel
exactly.
People so often, like, couples from Bachelor Nation so often break up after Dancing with the Stars, and it makes sense. It's like when you go on that show, you're so busy, you're spending a lot of time with other people, and then
being intimate, kind of like physically intimate with other people. Yeah,
exactly. It kind of makes sense why it's a tough place to go right after you just got engaged and like, you know, already haven't had a lot of time together, and then you go right into this Dancing with the Stars thing. So I was a little bit worried when they announced that she was going to be on Dancing with the Stars, but, you know, let's just hope. I would love to see these two go the distance because, they're so cute.
Let's have them beat the odds. There's so few Bachelor couples that beat the odds, and there's something about Charity and Dotun that feel like they're both so even-keeled. They're not going to get caught up in this fame bubble or the partying, or I don't know, just like having such busy lives, they're not able to build something and have the family that they're looking for. We'll see their personalities emerge a lot more now that this season is over, but I'm very happy that Charity got her happy ending of Dotun. Their speech at the end was adorable, how they kept whispering, I love you always, and Dotun was kneeling, and it's just so cute. They look amazing together.
I know.
When I was watching, just her like tearing up and crying, and then his smile just cracking open when he realized that she was the one, like he was the one that she was choosing. It was just so much butterflies, and you could just feel that palpable thrill. So I just love them.
It was so good. Okay, let us know down below. Are you so happy to see Dotun and Charity together? What do you think about their relationship, their storyline? Now that we know it's them, what do we think about the story that they've embarked on over the course of the season? And what do you think is in store for them? Do you think that their relationship can go the distance? Let us know down below.
Now it's about our favorite Joey.
He's so cute. He's
so cute. He is definitely America's choice. I'm so happy that the producers finally listened to us and they picked a lead that America's excited about, they're attracted to. It was so funny when Jesse was like, who in the audience is dating the next Bachelor? It felt very obvious it was Joey, like the Hawaiian girls or whatever that connection was.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved him this entire episode. I thought that it was so beautiful when he met Charity's parents, how he was able to address some very hard conversations off the bat. He won them all over. It was really impressive to see. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than that. He just was like knocking it out of the park with each one.
Totally. Charity's family falling in love with Joey was not something that I expected. I was really surprised about it. I mean, Joey is so sweet. It doesn't surprise me that anyone who meets him would fall in love with him. But for some reason, I just thought
I was a little surprised.
I kind of just thought Charity's family would just be skeptical of him. Obviously, he's like a teddy bear, so it's not surprising that they fell in love with him. And you're right. I loved that he brought up the interracial relationship conversation directly to, I think it was his Charity's sister that he brought it up to, and asked her questions about that. I thought it was just great to see him bringing those conversations into moments where it could become really uncomfortable, as opposed to just like in safer places, like just between him and Charity, or even him and his family. That's probably easier to navigate than it is to bring that kind of conversation to Charity's family the first time that he's meeting them. It was kind of a bold move in my opinion, but I thought he handled it really well. I love that he directly addressed, like, I don't want to be saying something like, I don't see color, because that would be ignorant of me to say. I love that he said that. That was like a concern that I know I had about him around the time of his hometown and some of the things that he was saying to his family. So I was glad that he directly addressed that. I did rethink about the thing that you had said, Julie, around that time, which is that there is a little bit of a people-pleasing thing that continues to happen with Joey, where he just clearly knows what the person in front of him wants to hear. So he kind of shifts maybe like the types of things that he will say depending on who's in front of him. So the types of things that he was saying to his own family members felt a little bit different from the types of things he was saying to Charity's family. But I do think overall, Joey just seems like a really sweet and thoughtful guy who is really trying to be active and engaged in this part of the conversation of what it would be like to be dating or married to Charity, a Black woman. So I overall really liked this conversation and his time meeting Charity's family. It made me like him even more. I feel like I've been so iffy about him up until now, and now I was like, oh, he's so cute. He's like a teddy bear.
Yeah. He won me over when he won over her family, because I was very surprised to see any kind of indecision on that part. I really believed that it was going to be very clear that Dotun was going to be the front runner. Her family was going to affirm her decision. She was going to leave Joey in the dust. And then for there to be like this split game time decision of Joey's pretty great, don't rule him out either. And I'm actually really liking him, and he fits in with the family, and it's natural and it's seamless. All of the things that she really valued of Dotun, it just really goes to show that he is made for this franchise. He is made for America, and his people-pleasing, it definitely does have, there are positive things that can come from that response as long as you're not compromising who you are, and it does lead to him being very adaptable. He goes into a situation and he understands, okay, Charity brought this up to me, probably good for me to bring it up to her family proactively and think about it. He's engaging and thinking about the ways that he's coming across. I just hope he's not doing it and sacrificing himself in the process, or not saying things that feel authentic to him because he's just doing what other people want him to do. Because he just knew exactly what they needed to hear. And I don't know if that was intentional, but it was the exact things that unlocked her family's heart. They just welcomed him with open arms in a way that Dotun didn't even get access to. They were pretty reserved from that, which was surprising. It was funny at the end when her mom was like, I've gotten time to know Dotun. I like him a lot better. But with Joey off the bat, he had that trust. It was
immediate. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with your read of Joey. That will be, I think, a big theme of his season, his people-pleasing tendency. You're right, because it can be a good thing. There are things that come out of being able to be so empathetic. Clearly he just has this intuitive sense of understanding what other people need from him in a conversation, and it does signal such an empathy and such an awareness. He just really is listening. He's really paying attention to the small details, and those are such great qualities to have in anyone, but definitely in a partner, in a friend. It's something that can be so valuable to be around. But then the offshoot of that is you could end up sacrificing your own authenticity and kind of masking or shoving down how you really feel about things, or the things that you really want out of a situation. And so that would be my biggest concern with Joey going into his season of The Bachelor. It felt for example, during the breakup, when Charity broke up with Joey on the proposal stage, he was being so calm and giving with her, and it was so beautiful. And I was so happy that he was able to kind of hold space for her in that moment, because she wanted to share some things, get some things off of her chest. She was like, I really want to leave you with these words. And he was like, okay, I'm listening. And he just stood there and he listened to her. And then at the same time, I was just kind of honestly, Joey, you have needs in this moment too. I'm sure you're feeling so much. And it felt like he couldn't really express that because he was so focused on taking care of Charity in that moment. And so part of me was like, oh my God, he's so sweet. He's like, look at him. He's being so great to her in this breakup. But then the other part of me was like, but is he kind of masking his emotions just to give Charity what she wants from that moment and not paying enough attention to what he needs from this moment? He even said this, and after the final rose, he was like, I kind of blacked out. Like, I don't even remember a lot of what happened. And that's like a trauma response, right? When you kind of freeze and shut down, or even maybe start fawning, where this is like the fourth trauma response. It's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, where you just kind of start focusing on giving the other person what they want to kind of protect yourself. It felt like a little bit of that to me. It was like, clearly he was devastated that he wasn't going to be the one who ends up with Charity, and yet he couldn't even register that. Like, he was so focused on, I don't know, like pushing his own experience down to show up for Charity. So I don't know, it's such a double-edged sword. It's like beautiful, but it's also a little dangerous to disconnect from yourself so harshly like that. So I found myself so worried about him, and I hope he can overcome this in his season. I expect it to kind of be a challenge for him to be the center of attention, right? When you're the lead of a Bachelor season, you kind of have to be selfish, right? You have to really focus on yourself and what you want and what you need, and that's clearly something that Joey is not great at. He's so focused on other people's needs.
Totally. With Joey and his people pleasing, even though it can be negative at times, I do love that even when he blacked out in that moment, which is not great because it's like, I mean, it's obviously the super really intense. You're in front of the cameras, you're getting broken up with. He was literally about to kneel. He had this insane speech about like wanting to marry her. Yeah. He was about to go down on one knee. But what I really loved was that, like, even when he was pushed to a moment of you're not getting what you want, that's when people reveal themselves. That's when they show who they are, and that's when really ugly sides can come out. And it's not like I've ever seen that happen on the show where the person gets mad at the lead that rejects them. But I do think that I haven't really seen a response like his, which was really kind. He was smiling. He, not because he was happy, but because he wanted to comfort Charity, because he understands the mutual emotions that are flowing from both sides. From his side, he's heartbroken. He also understands the nuance in what's happening with Charity. Despite the fact that she's getting engaged, she also is heartbroken. Yeah. And she had to say something very tough, which was, I just had a deeper connection. It's not like we didn't love each other, because we do. I still love you. I just have a deeper connection of this other person, and it's time for me to choose, and that's what I'm choosing. He was able to accept, understand, and empathize with that nuance, which made their breakup so unique, because I don't think you see that. Sometimes people are crying, they're devastated. Why? Are you sure? They kind of pick that apart a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
It was gracious for him to back into that, and I hope that with his people pleasing, especially on a season, it doesn't like overcorrect to I'm now being selfish and this is my season, but it goes into I understand people's emotions, I'm attuned to people's emotions, yet I'm going to stay in my body and I'm going to choose what's best for me. And I genuinely believe the person that he's going to resonate with the most is someone that encourages him to make the best decision for himself. So he's going to want to be with someone that's as gracious as he is, like very understanding. So then he can be selfish and he doesn't have to worry about hurting her feelings because she's accepting this nuance to Joey, which is Joey's not always happy, Joey's not always perfect, Joey's not always charismatic and has great energy. Sometimes he gets sad, sometimes he makes bad decisions. All of that is okay because he's trying his best and his intentions are really good. I feel like that's the kind of person that's going to vibe with him the most.
You're so right. He even kind of said that. That reminded me of his conversation with Charity. I think maybe before the fantasy suite, he and her talked about that exact thing, that he was like, I'm not always like this. I'm not always so perfect. And I need someone who can accept me when I'm not being like the perfect, giving you the right response kind of guy. And you're so right. I bet that's exactly what he's going to look for, what he should look for in his partner. And he said this actually even about Charity. He was like, Charity kind of like made it easy for me to be myself, which I think is something that he really needs. He really needs to be with someone who he feels safe enough to show his emotions and who is going to tend to him and care for his feelings and make sure that he has space to express himself, his true self and his true feelings, just like he does for other people. He needs someone to meet him there and who they can do that for each other, because clearly his tendency is going to be to focus on that other person so much, and it's like, it's beautiful, but it's I need you to take care of yourself, Joey. Also, like, I want you to, like, I want him to be okay. I want him to make sure that that's the balance. It's always the balance. It's like, you need to be able to take care of the person in front of you, and you need to be able to take care of yourself simultaneously. And it's actually shockingly challenging to do that, because most people have an instinct to do one or the other, take care of only me or only you, and you have to be able to do both in every situation. And I believe that Joey is gonna be pushed to grow in his Bachelor season. I think it's gonna be a really good place for him to kind of work through maybe some of that people-pleasing tendencies. Even, I don't know if you noticed this, even with so they brought on these girls who are going to date Joey, or this one girl, Leia, who, by the way, so cute. I was in love with her. She looks like Bella Poarch. She's just like...
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. She does.
Right? I was like, oh my God, I was in love with her. I thought she was so freaking cute. But I don't know if you noticed, even with her, he was like, very much like, they were like, what do you think about her, like, in this moment? And he was like, well, of course she's pretty, but then, like, I want to just validate you and your experience and how hard it is for you to be here. I'm like, we didn't ask for you to validate her experience. We asked for your experience in this moment. But even, like, with this random stranger, he's just so focused on validating her and, like, not actually sharing anything about how he feels in the situation. So I was like, Joey, we're going to need to work through this. I want you. I want your thoughts. I want your feelings.
Right. It's so funny because, I mean, that's what might make his season positive, or at least, like, more watchable for me, because I actually really love that he is so aware of other people's experiences. It's not like Charity has not been. I'm thinking about Clayton. I'm thinking about Zach, the previous bachelors that have passing the torch to Joey. Joey is someone that is aware of other people, what they're going through. I think that he's going to have a very drama-free season in terms of, like, as soon as someone starts proms for other people and it hurts people, he's not going to be about that, because he's so deeply empathetic to everyone's experience, not just his on the show. And I do think he's going to carry that forward. And I personally really love that. And I don't want to make it a gendered thing, but bachelorettes are typically better at taking care of people on their season versus the bachelors. So I would love to see that being introduced to the dynamic, and then eventually him really whittling down the group to the women that are very gracious and respectful of him in his time, the way that he's respectful of their time. And it could, like, open up into this very expansive, really fun, really healing, growth-oriented season. You know, he can date people and make sure that people are having a good time and are staying positive, and he can work on himself and be selfish, but not put the attention on him and have it be all about him in a season, which has been very typical from the last few bachelors you've had.
Totally. You're so right about that. I mean, I think back to Zach Shallcross, who Charity came from. It was like, on his season, he was so focused on how he felt in any given moment. And as soon as somebody else expressed a negative feeling, he would just send them home, because he was like,
go home.
Oh, this feels bad for me. Now that you're, like, crying, this feels bad for me. You should leave. Or, you need something from me.
Can't handle it.
Makes me uncomfortable. You should just go. So it was a very self-focused way of approaching his season. And again, it's like, it's not bad to be self-focused, but it's the balance. You need to focus on yourself. You need to focus on others. You need to care about both things at the same time. And you're right. I kind of think Joey is going to be a really fun lead to root for, because I'm with you. I like people who are other focused. I mean, I think, Julie, you and I are both very much like that also. Like, we tend to be very other focused. So I really resonate with, like, Joey's struggle here. And so I think he's going to be really a great bachelor to watch, because you can tell he's just such a sweetheart and that he wants the best for others. And I hope he rallies as hard for himself as he rallies for other people. That's what I want to see.
I genuinely think that's going to happen on a season, because he's just so genuine and sweet. And I don't know if I've really seen that in a male lead in a while. Just a very genuinely sweet, caring person. And it's not like saying the last few leads were not. I just wouldn't say they led with that more. They were like all
I agree.
American, attractive, or they had these strong family values. Joey just feels like a nice guy that's working on himself and
totally
is willing to like learn, willing to have hard conversations, willing to be critical of himself. That's so unique. It's going to feel like such a fun season. It's going to be like a blend of all of these new things that we're getting.
Wait, you're so right. Like, as I reflect on our last couple leads, it's like Zach, Clayton, Matt James. Like, these are all like hunks who are like kind of...
Not the most emotionally aware.
Yeah, exactly. Not the most empathetic, not the most attuned to what the women on his season needed, on their seasons needed. So I agree. Joey's going to be such a different kind of bachelor.
Breath of fresh air.
Oh, he'll be so fun to watch. I'm actually really excited about him.
I mean, girls are going to love dating him. This is the first lead in a long time that I think, like, there's just going to be a lot of people wanting to date him. A lot of people throwing themselves at him because he's just so... He's so nice and sweet, and he's so high, and he's so caring. Like, who doesn't want to date someone like that?
Dude, after the final rose, I was like, whoa,
insane.
You really looking pretty smoking over there. He hadn't been, I don't know. I feel like I was a little late to the Joey game. I was so mid on him for so long. I know you were really into him, but I was just kind of like, I liked him, but I couldn't put my finger on how to feel about him, really. But now I'm really rooting for him.
You're getting on it.
Yeah, I'm getting on it. I would. Sorry, this is too much. All right, let us know down below, what do you all think about Joey, the end of his story with Charity, and what do you think about him as the Bachelor? Are you excited to see him? What do you think about what we're talking about his people-pleasing challenges and or strengths? What do you think about how he'll approach his season? Leave some thoughts down below. Okay, before we go, we have to talk about that Bachelor in Paradise trailer. Oh my gosh, so juicy. I literally screamed several times throughout this trailer. It looks so good. I'm sorry. I know everyone was like, Golden Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, which one should we cover? Maybe Golden Bachelor. I think we got to cover both because Bachelor in Paradise is looking so juicy. So we'll be covering both. This trailer got me so excited. We saw so many interesting people coming down that beach. We've got 3 bachelorettes, it looks like. We've got Rachel Recchia, who is my baby girl. I love her. We've got Katie. We've got Hannah Brown, my other baby girl. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Can't wait.
Becca Krufren really opened up the floodgates for bachelorettes to come back on the show and succeed. I was astounded by how many former leads were on the beach and just how they were shaking things up. The truth box was killing me. I don't know what that is, but I just love it. It just feels very juvenile, but I just love that this like little box that people are slipping notes in is causing so much chaos on the beach.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm sorry. Like, I know we're all about healthy love here, but I love the mess and I can't wait to see it. Let us know down below who you're most excited to see on the beach and what you're most looking forward to with Bachelor in Paradise this year. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel because we will be doing recaps of every single episode of Bachelor in Paradise and the Golden Bachelor. We have so much to cover, so you don't want to miss it. So we will see you very soon in a couple of weeks. Bye.